Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope you guys doing well after the long Thanksgiving weekend. We're here on October 12th in a day that's 25 degrees here in Rexton. I can't believe it. I love it. Maybe snow just won't come again. I'm all for that. And I know my co-host, who hates the cold more than maybe anybody I've ever met, right up there. Shamus, how I know it was a weird Thanksgiving because of protocols and our new society, but did you get to enjoy yourself a little bit after your big test results that you received on Friday?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, get to announce it, I guess. Yeah, I passed, which I was happy about. I didn't do a ton juggy, but just kind of stuck around the pad. And I feel like everyone's got the same mindset. Even though their Thanksgiving was supposed to be this weekend, they'll probably just move it to next weekend. When you know what I mean, like, because
Right.
we have weird rules here in New Brunswick. But no, nice and warm, and you're right, loving this warm weather. If I was in Florida right now, I'd probably be even a little bit chilly, because just you know me, I'm just not a big cold guy. There's times when I came back to the apartment and you had all the lights off and probably all the thermostats down, even in my room probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't like that very much because it was a little too chilly. But no, I'm excited to get on the pods, talk some Breaking Bad, and yeah, more importantly, see what's going on with old Walter White.
Yeah. Two really good episodes we're going to talk about. A lot of backstory about Gustavo, which I find, like you, I know you find it. You told me before we went live that you find this one so interesting, and I do too. The whole story with his, so-called brother or business partner, to say the least. But before we get to that, NHL starts up tonight.
Mm.
Kraken, couple 5, 6 players on the COVID list. Real good omen to start the season, but they get going tonight. Tampa raising the banner. How stoked are you to get to see the puck drop tonight?
I am so beyond happy. I think it's going to be a really entertaining year. And, like you said, there's going to be a lot of COVID in amongst everything. So it's going to be, guys missing a game here or there. So it's going to be I think it's going to be the teams that are either well built or the most strict on the rules about seeing people and seeing family. And, how much freedom they get away from the rink, I think will play a big part in it. So I'm excited for it. And, even though there's a lot of players not going to be able to play tonight, unfortunately, due to injuries, it's still going to be great to see some real hockey on the line. I'm not a big preseason guy, but I even took in a couple preseason games. So yeah, that's a sign I'm anxious to get going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Two games tonight. Obviously, your Leafs get going tomorrow. You got some really intriguing games as well tomorrow. I think the Washington New York game jumps out for me. Colorado Chicago is also one that I have circled that I plan on looking into. And you also got baseball playoffs tonight, so it's a great sports night for a Tuesday, which is normally, it's a pretty damn good sports night. So. And your Dodgers, they're on their face tonight. They got to come up with a victory tonight. Old Walker Buehler looking for a big start tonight.
Yeah, boys. Well, the boys with the bats let old Mad Max out last night. I felt bad for him. He had one of his best games of the year, and of course, they let him down. So, no, looking to bounce back from that. But yeah, I think if there was any series that you'd want to go 5 games, it would be this one because both teams are just so damn good. And yeah, I'd hate to see it end on a Tuesday, on a warm Tuesday night here in New Brunswick.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers will win tonight. I said before, I think they'll win the series. I think they'll win tonight and win on Thursday. But we'll see. That's what makes it fun. You play the games. Last week we wrapped with the Breaking Bad, really with Hank on Gustavo's trail. He's been looking into the Gail Bedecker case. He brought the news to the DEA, and he has his suspicions that Gus could be the meth kingpin that they've been looking for all along. It's not Gail Bedecker. We know this to be true, but there's still a lot of skepticism, Shay. And, we still don't know a whole lot about Gustavo Fring and how he got into this business, but it's certainly that, that's really the main focal point of these episodes is, Hank getting closer to Gus's criminal empire.
Yeah, it just shows you how great Hank's instincts are. You know, you go back to a couple of seasons ago with Jesse and being able to track him down and realize, you know, he's not the mastermind, but he's definitely working with somebody. And yeah, he's figured it out basically in his own head that Gustavo's not the nice guy. You keep saying he's too nice to have no dirt on him. And you know, we see that there's a lot that comes up in Gus's past. And this is one of my favorite episodes solely because we see more Gus than I've ever seen before, both present and past. And, you know, we see kind of this weird relationship he has with cartel and how that gets started. So really, really looking forward to, you know, breaking it down here and, you know, kind of what we think, I guess, and, you know, what he's got going on in his mind.
Yeah, I love these episodes too for exactly the same reason, because Gus is just such a compelling character to me, and how they built him and his backstory is just really creative. And this episode starts with a flashback, and it's the day we see it starts with Gustavo and Walter talking in the hospital on the day that Hank was attacked. And you know, it's the flashback to Gus saying, you know, thank me and shake my hand. And he brought them some chicken and whatnot that day to all the DEA agents, and he's doing his good public relations. But we also go upstairs and we hear that the other one twin that lost his legs, is dead. We see the flash to Mike checking out, meaning that he went in there and killed the other twin. And you know, Gus actually had to go inform somebody about all this news, Shay, and he goes to our old friend Mr. Bell himself, Tuco's uncle, Don Hector Salamanca.
Yeah, he basically lets him know that the status of, you know, what happened, that the brothers, the twins, I guess, came to him, basically wanted Walter's head, and he said no, but you can take DEA agent Schrader and you have my blessing, basically. And this was all basically a form and basically a scheme by Gus, it seems like, because he wanted the twins to attack Schrader, attack Hank, and then, you know, Hank to retaliate. And he even tells him, he says there was a phone call put in place right before Hank was attacked, and you know, the guy who knew about it was killed. So I guess we'll never know really what happened, and we'll never know who made the phone call. And he's basically putting it out there that he was the one who, you know, did the phone call. That's what I thought anyways. Did you have any, you know, did you disagree on that? Or
no, I completely, you know, he's saying it indirectly, telling Hector, you can do nothing about this, but I made the call. Hank would be dead, they would still be alive if I didn't make that phone call. And you know,
exactly.
And he's basically, and he finishes this little talk to Hector saying, this is what comes, Hector, blood for blood. And it pans to a bunch of water with blood in it, and we have no knowledge as to why this is the start of the episode, but we learn later on. But this is a little tease as to what to come later.
Yeah, kind of like when I think it was in season 2 when we kept seeing, you know, shrapnel from the plane,
right?
And it would kind of be it's kind of like that almost. But yeah, no, really kind of just giving this little tease of what's going to happen later, which I think was really, really great by the writers to kind of throw that in there throughout the episode.
Yeah, no, completely agree. We then pivot to Walter. He's at his doctor's appointment. He's getting a checkup for the cancer to see if it's back, if he's still in remission. And it's funny, he's in the doctor's wear there. He's in the scrubs, and he's chatting with this young guy. And he says to him how he's so worried, and he's afraid he's gonna die. And Walter's just has had enough with him. He just goes, you know, every damn day I am expecting bad news, but you know what? I'm in control of my life. Don't let fear control your life. And I control everything that I do now, because when I come in here, I know someday I'll get bad news. So basically, fuck it.
Yeah. He says we all have a death sentence eventually. Right. So he's like, why not do what you can until then? And this is such a power. It's such a power, I guess, speech by Walter, because, you know, he's the man. But when reality, Juggy, he could die in an instant. Like
Yeah.
yes, he does run aspects of his life, but at the end of it, kind of Gus has him by a string, because if he wasn't cooking, well, he'd be dead. So I think, Walter's a little cocky in the sense that
Yeah.
he thinks he runs everything going on in his own life.
Yeah, I think this is a mirage too. Like he doesn't. Like he doesn't. Like Skylar controls the business. She gets his money. Gustavo, like I said, the only reason he's alive is because Gus needs him to cook meth. If he stopped having the ability to cook meth, he would be dead because he'd be a loose end. He has, as of right now, he can't get Jesse to kill Gus. He can't get anybody to do anything for him. He really has no control over his life at this current moment.
Yeah, but he wants to act like he does.
Yeah.
He even makes a phone call in between. This guy's trying to, desperately look for guidance, you could say, because he's a newbie, and, just playing out makes a phone call while he's kind of asking for help.
Right.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Interrupts him way through a heartfelt speech, and he goes, just shut up. Like, hello. Meanwhile, we see Gus at Los Polos, and he gets a call, and we learn it's from the DEA, and he's being brought in to discuss Gail Bedecker, and he doesn't know that when he gets there, but he's asked if he needs an attorney, and he keeps up this image of this clean guy. He says, no, I don't think that's necessary, and he keeps presenting just the businessman that can do no wrong.
Yeah, and you can see Hank, and it's Hank and Gomi and their boss and the guy working the homicide case, and Hank's kind of quiet, and he's taking it all in. He's not asking any questions because he wants to see this guy's reaction and how he reacts to accusations. Right away, Gus says he's got an alibi. He's got an alibi, and he's got a story for Gail, which, as smart as he is, it's kind of just the perfect move. And, he says, oh, okay, Gail Bedecker. Well, he was someone I gave a scholarship to at this university named after Maxim.
Basically, we'll learn who that is later.
Yeah. We find out that's Gus's brother / business partner.
Yeah.
But this is who the scholarship's named after. And he says, Gail approached me. He ended up just wanting money, some kind of investment. And Gus says he declined, and it kind of covers his ass for why he has fingerprints in Gail's apartment. And also, he has an alibi, of course, for the night that Gail got shot.
Yeah, you also see how he's got a book of where he is on every day at certain times, which is just so, so Gus, like just to be so knowledgeable and have everything ready. Like I said, he was so quick. He said, oh, he invited me over for dinner. That's why my prints would have been there. And so, and he says, yeah, no, but Hank, like you said, Hank's not saying anything, but they asked, do you have any more questions? And Hank's very perceptive. He says, well, you're telling me you met with a guy a week ago and he just shows up dead and you don't alert the cops? Like, you suspected something that could be wrong? Like, why wouldn't you tell us that? Which was a pretty smart question.
Yeah, absolutely. He's supposed to be this big donor for the DEA, but he doesn't have, he didn't have the knowledge to kind of throw it in there. Another thing too, I guess, that, Hank asked about is his past, because before, he says before 86, when Gus went from Chile to Mexico, there's no record of it. There's no record of him being there. There's nothing on him. And, this is obviously suspicious if you're looking at the background. And I think this big hole in Gus's past is really what draws Hank in on, what kind of past he has, and, has he been a criminal before, really?
Right. And he has an answer. He says, there's the human rights and the record keeping there is terrible. That's probably a big reason why, but I'm sure you'll find me if you keep digging. You're a smart guy. And they kind of have to leave it there. There's no evidence. He's got an answer to everything, but Hank, of course, he doesn't buy bullshit. He does, and we don't learn that right away, but Gus leaves. He shakes everybody's hand. He's so nice, gives Hank his cane, but we see him in the elevator, and the camera goes to his hand and he starts twitching. He kind of going like this, and he's ticked off.
Yeah. This is funny because when you think about it, who was the one who really saved Hank? Well, it was Gus in the end, and now it's that decision to leave him or to keep him alive is now kind of biting Gus in the ass, which I kept thinking about throughout this episode. Like if Gus were to if Gus were to let him die, then this wouldn't have been an issue, and he wouldn't be dealing with this right now. But unfortunately, he is, and at the same time, he's got heat from the cartel coming down on him.
Right. Yeah, it's not a good time in Gus's life, to say the least. He's got a lot of different things on the horizon. There's this scene where Saul goes to Andrea, which is Jesse's ex-girlfriend, or still, they're still has feelings for her. Obviously, she has the son Brock, and he brings her a check, which we learn that Jesse's giving her money every week. She's bought a new home in a nicer neighborhood to get out of the proverbial ghetto. And Brock is in a new school, but Saul, kind of leaves, and he kind of pokes at Jesse, like, why don't you just go in and give it to them? Like, why don't they'd be happy to see you? And it works.
Yeah, Jesse gets out, and that's all we really get to see. I think I don't think we get to actually see their reaction, but it is seeing that he's maybe healing up that relationship. We not know he's sober, not because he probably wants to be, but because he's so overworked. He doesn't really have any time to do it.
Right.
But no, it's the best thing for Jesse, and you can kind of see him that he's mending this relationship back together,
right,
little by little.
Yes, and that's good, because he was at his best really when he was with her, because he had Brock, and they have a great relationship. So Jesse is starting to piece his life back together little by little after his outburst at the rehab meeting in the past episode. Mm-hmm. The Schraders and Walter and Skylar and Junior have a dinner. They invite them over for dinner, and Hank kind of asks Walt a favor. He says, Marie's working tomorrow. Do you mind driving me to the mineral show? And Walt's all for it. He goes, oh, that's cool. Like, I used to have a collection. Like, we could go do that. But he picks him up the next day, and he goes, no, we're not going. There's no rock show. They're going on a mission. They're scoping out Los Polos Hermanos.
So even though, and we might have missed this at the end of the meeting with Gus and the DEA, they kind of said, we're going to put this to hush. We don't want you going back after Gus. Like his alibi reaches, and we're not touching this again. But yeah. Gus is he's going solo. He's going, what's that called when you're going off the gun?
Oh, go rogue.
Yeah, he's gone rogue. He's gone rogue, and he wants Walter to put a tracking device on Gus's car, which is very illegal.
Yes.
And Walter's in a tough spot, because if he gets caught doing it, well, now it looks like he's betraying Gus, and he's working with the DEA. And who pulls up next to the car, Juggy, with their paper and smirk look?
Yeah, Walter is just panicking. He's asking Hank question after question, like, what'd you find out? Like, did he do it? And he's like, just shut up. Let me tell you the story. But then comes Mike, pulls up about a foot away from them, and he's just staring at Walter. He's just like, what the hell are you doing? The paper, and Walt's like looking at Hank and then looking at Mike. At this, he's kind of like, what do I do here? So Hank says, Jesus, do I need to beg? Like, please go do this for me. So Walt has to do it. So he walks up to the car, and Hank just says, drop down like you're tying your shoe and stick it under the wheel well. And he doesn't have the courage to do that. So he gets up and walks in the store, and there to greet him is
Gustavo Fring.
And these two haven't seen each other in a while.
Yeah, no, he basically goes, he says, he looks at him just kind of with a polite smile, says, can I help you, sir? Kind of putting on this image that they don't know each other, which I always find humorous.
Yeah.
And Walter basically shit himself. He's like, I didn't do it. He shows him the device, and Gus says, do it. No, he says, do it. And Walter's like, all right. So he comes out with his soda, and on the way back, he kneels down again, puts it on, and Hank's like, well, why'd you? He's like, Walter just says, well, I had to check it. I wanted to make sure it was on right. And Gus knows that it's there now, which is exactly what he wants, because it makes him look good because he's got a plan for this. And we'll talk about that a little later, but he's got a plan for everything.
Right. Also, did this make you think, Shay, that Walter's car is bugged?
Because he showed up to Los
because
Polos.
the second he
Yeah, I
showed
never
up
thought
there,
of that.
Mike pulled in.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that means basically that they're following him around and making sure that if he gets close to Gus, because you know, for people listening, Walter's been very sporadic. He showed up in the Los Polos with a gun. He's kind of, you know, it's very well known that he's kind of after Gus, and he won't. Him and Gus are not supposed to get near each other. But that's kind of the whole point of why Walter wants Jesse to take out Gus, you know, kind of through this ricin deal that they've made. And, you know, it was really funny, but I never put that together. That is actually probably what's happening, is that they've got a bug and they're following him wherever he goes.
Because Mike is there within a second. Even if Gus saw him on the security camera, he's not there that quick. Meaning Mike, I mean, we see Tyrus in the next episode, so they're following everybody. You know, I think they got eyes and ears everywhere. And that just came to my mind watching this scene, because Mike is there in half a second. It's just pretty hilarious. So they put the bug on, he drops Hank off at home, and Walter immediately drives to the lab in just a frenzy, a panic, because he just knows this is not good for him. And he basically walks to the corner. He said, I didn't know we were going there. He knows nothing. No DA believes him. Please don't use violence on Hank. Like, basically pleading for Hank's life. Please don't kill him. Like, he's not a problem. He's not a threat. I'll deal with it.
Yeah, because I mean, and you know, Jesse says this a little later, but obviously, like, this has become a problem for Gus. You know, he's bringing him in, he's questioning him, and he's, you know, basically putting a lot of heat on him, even though, you know, Gus is supposed to be these buddies with, you know, the DEA, and, you know, he's not supposed to be on the other side of that wall, but right now he's being accused of. So obviously, it's a good reason to get rid of Hank almost immediately.
Right. So he's still in a frenzy. He knows now, okay, my life might be in danger. Well, it is more than likely. And now Hank is in danger. So he drives to Jesse's house and he tells Jesse the whole story. And he says he knows that he's on to Gus. I need him killed tonight, you know, tomorrow, but maybe tonight if you can. Jesse's like, bitch, I can't do that tonight. But, you know, Jesse, of course, pitches, well, if Hank's going after Gus and Gus going after Hank, one douchebag minus one douchebag equals our problems are solved.
Yeah, no douchebags. And, you know, Jesse's clearly just doesn't really give a fuck, but well, of course, Walter's, you know, outright. He's like, you know, you got to set up this meeting now. You got to set this meeting with Gus, and you got to do this now. You know, have you even asked yet? And, you know, Jesse's like, he's busy. Like, hey, you know, this guy's not easy to get to, Walter. And, you know, he's like, I'm gonna go use the bathroom, like this. And Jesse's phone blows, and Walter goes, picks it up, and what does he read, Juggy?
Says the boss is busy. The meeting's off for tonight, and Walter now knows that Jesse has at least seen Gus once before, because he said this meeting is off, meaning they've had prior meetings. Walter asks him, you know, have you seen Gus? And Jesse lies to him for the second straight episode and says, no, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, common trend at this point, but you know, clearly now Walter must feel like he must feel that Jesse's turning on him, and that's kind of, you know, his thought process, I feel. We learn more about this in the second episode, which, you know, labeled above, which I think is great. But yeah, no, this is clear sign for Walter that Jesse's starting to turn to the dark side, you could say, and it's not looking good, because that's really his only in on getting Gus killed, you could say.
Yeah, he can't get to him. Mike's not going to turn. He's blindly loyal to him, and Jesse again is just does not have that killer instinct to do it. So he's kind of on the outside. He's by himself. He has no control of his life. You know, the mirage that he was selling is becoming more and more apparent as this episode has gone on. Mike calls Gus and informs him that no DEA or APD has anything on him, just Hank acting alone, which is good. But Gus is very introspective in this episode. So he goes back to visit Don Hector, this time in the present, and he tells him the news that he's being chased by Hank.
Yes. He basically tells him this, and it's funny because Hector won't even look at him.
No.
Hector is he's, even though he's a crippled man, he's still kind of turned away, and he won't, make eye contact with Gus. So Gus kind of revisits a memory they both share about the first time they've met, and it's kind of cool. They're in Mexico clearly, and it's Gus at a very young age. I shouldn't say young age. He's probably in his early 30s, maybe late 20s, and he's there with this man that we've heard about but never met, and it's I'm forgetting his name, Max.
Yeah, we'll just say Max.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a younger Hector. He's not crippled, so clearly this happened. Well, you learn how this happens in Better Call Saul if you watch that show. But he's not crippled. He's part of the cartel, the Barbosa that Gus killed, that sent all the men to his house, and the police killed him, is present. And the two are kind of sitting there, and Hector is just an asshole. Let's just be, he gets outside, he starts taking a piss in the pool in front of them, tells them that they like what they see. He doesn't offer the two men a drink, and he just basically says they're just lucky to be here. And
it calls them the Chicken Brothers.
They sit there so uncomfortable. But we do meet really the kingpin of the cartel as he comes out, and it's Mr. Don Eladio.
And Don's the man. He kind of comes out, right away he's welcoming these guys, and we find out that Gus is kind of the businessman to this project, and Max is the cook. He's the cook / chef, and he was brought up. He's got degrees in sciences thanks to Gus, and they've been selling a little bit more than chicken as they've been giving samples of methamphetamine to some of Don's men.
Yes, and he hates this. He says, "My men are coming back high," and yes, he said, he pipes in, "Well, we're making good product. Your men love it. They really like it. And you're selling cocaine right now, Don Eladio. You can make double, triple, maybe quadruple the money you're making now if you sell meth." And Max pipes in, I can make it. It's pure, and it's more addictive than cocaine. This is your next big step in your criminal empire.
And as good of a deal it sounds, Don doesn't like it. He kind of questions that, and he's like, Hector, go get these guys a drink. These guys don't get it. Be friendly to our guests. So Hector kind of goes to the side, and that's kind of it. And Don keeps asking. He says, if you're the cook, what are you? He points to Gus, thinking, why do I need two guys? Well, I just want one business partner. I want to make this simple. And the whole time you're like, oh, okay, this is not looking good. These Gus could be facing some bad times. We know he's alive, but how is he alive?
And also, Shay, we learn that he brokered the deal kind of greasy. Like he used leverage by giving his men the cocaine to give the meth to get the deal, which Eladio hates. He goes, "That's how you do business down there, you Chileans. That's not how we do business here."
Yeah.
So, no, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, so yeah, you're right. And he's kind of looking at Gus like, "I don't need you." And Max is so paranoid. These two are so clearly. He goes, "No, Don Eladio, Gus is going to make you millions, billions of dollars. He's a brilliant business guy." And he's just, "I'm so sorry." And, he's an honorable, a genius. And while he's in the middle of this rambling, we hear, and we see blood come in the air, and Max's head has basically just been blown off.
Yeah, really, like really good scene because you're not paying on Max, you're paying on Gus, and the blood. Obviously, they're sitting side by side, so the blood just kind of was all over his face. And that pool scene, he falls down right next to the pool, his head's dripping, the blood's dripping right into the pools, which kind of gives the same effect that we've seen earlier,
Right.
about the water and how the blood got in there. So it kind of answers that question. And they basically grab, Gus goes, they must have had a very close relationship because Gus is fired up and he goes right after Hector. He basically hits him, gets him down, and they lay him right next to Max. And kind of Don says his spiel.
Yeah, tough scene. And he said, "Look at him. You're alive because I know who you are," meaning you're shady shit. And he's dead because of how you arranged this deal. And you're gonna work for me. You're gonna give me the money because otherwise you'll end up like him. And Gus is crying like my phone to the hand away from his face. He's staring at his lifeless eyes. And the episode, it cuts back, but it ends with Gus kind of telling Hector, "You took my family. I'm not going to quit until I take all of yours too."
Yeah, so we find out that the hatred Gus has for them, even though he's working for them, it's definitely a forced relationship, forced joint venture, you could say.
Yeah.
And this is also answers. Gus doesn't use fear as a motivator. He said that before, and we've seen that with with Jesse, both Jesse and Walter.
Right.
And instead, this is probably where this stems from, as the cartel basically motivated him with fear to work with them and basically answer all their doings because he had no choice.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he hates that, and he's rebelling against it. So he's like, why would I do that? And obviously it's a painful memory. But something I also thought of, Shay, is Max was the chef of the chicken and of the methamphetamine. Do you think that's why he was so hooked to Walter at first? He gave Walter the benefit of the doubt so much. Maybe he reminded him of Max.
Could be, yeah. It's a really, really smart guy. Great background. They're both scientists in their own right, and maybe he saw you've got a good point. He saw that relationship that he had, and how well it worked with his former partner, and he thought, well, I can have the almost exact same relationship with this guy, but obviously Walter. Walter's own hubris and also hanging on to Jesse too long. If you think about it, maybe if Jesse was not in the picture earlier, then this this hatred between the two would have probably been put out a long time ago.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have existed. And also for Gus, I'm sure seeing the two of them get to keep their partnership would be a little bit of a sore spot because he never got to keep his.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so we find it's a great way to find out, the background. Like we said, this was a lot of Gus between the interview and, we see him again in Los Polos and, of course, the end. This episode's really, really good, I guess, because it's, gives you the background and, the motivation for Gus to get back at the cartel. As of right now, there's no deal with the cartel, as he says in the next episode. So they're after him and they're trying to disrupt operations, you could say.
Right. And I love that they did this. It's not just, okay, I want to make more money than you. I think Gus obviously wants to make money. He's a businessman, but it makes you more compelled as a viewer because it's so personal. I think that's what makes The Sopranos so good, is that you love James Gandolfini, you love Tony Soprano, but you also were so invested in that character and his villains because it was such a personal relationship. Families were involved and you got to know the characters. And in this case, Gus hasn't exactly been a sympathetic figure so far because you have Walter and Jesse are your protagonists and they're in a heap of shit. But you kind of also say, okay, Gus has good reason for what he's doing because he's been through a hell of a lot in his life too.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
So what a way to end an episode. Like you said, great episode, Hermanos. This next one is called Bug. And episode starts with Walter picking up Hank, just like the past episode. And they go on another ride along, so to speak, or a field trip, as Hank calls it. And they go back to Los Polos, where Hank singing Eye of the Tiger because he's getting fired up for the little scout. And Walt goes and picks up the tracking device from Gustavo's car.
Yeah, so he picks it up, and on the way back, Walter notices that he's being tailed by somebody. He can't label who just yet, but he knows that somebody from Gus's clan is definitely watching him. They make it back to Hank's house, and obviously because we know this, and we might have left this out in the last episode, what Gus is doing is he goes and he hooks the tracking device onto a garbage can when he leaves, or when he's leaving Polo's, to make it seem like he only goes home and back, which is what Hank's results end up getting. And even Hank's a little suspicious of this because he says, who the hell goes home, home and back, or sorry, home and back, home and work every day for a week straight. So
yeah,
like I said earlier, Gus had him figured out. He knew what Hank wanted, and he wasn't going to give it to him.
Right, and he's got no chance because he's got Walter, the inside man, who's screwing him at the same time because they know exactly what he's doing. So even if he could catch Gus slipping up, he can't because Walter's there to interfere at the beginning. So yeah, he's frustrated. He goes, "What the hell, this little shit? Like he's not just this chicken guy. Like I freaking know it." And Walter leaves for the day, but when he's leaving, you said he spotted the car at Los Polos. Well, parked on the street, we see him just pull out in just a rage. It's Tyra sitting there watching Hank's house, and Walt puts down his window, gets his cell phone out, and calls the police, saying there's a weird person. He gives the sedan.
He's been watching the house.
Gives the specifics. Yeah, there's a weird guy watching the house, and it's basically a fuck you to everybody involved for Gustavo Fring.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's like you said, he fears for Hank's life. He knows that Hank could be in great danger if Gus decides to, if that's it and he wants him out. So Walter's kind of doing himself a favor, but he's also doing Hank a favor because obviously he still cares for him. He's still family. I think at this point we down to Jesse, or
we go to Skylar actually, and she's at the car wash and she calls Walt, and they discuss Junior's turning 16 soon. He doesn't want a big birthday. He's fine with that. She says, let's buy him a used car, something in our budget. He's cool with that. He said, just pick out the car, basically just being a lazy parent in this case, not wanting to talk to his wife. But she also says that business is good. They're almost profitable. And she even floats, maybe you can, quit your second job. Maybe you can come up with an exit plan sometime soon.
It's fun. And obviously this is funny for us because we know all Walter's been trying to do is basically get an exit plan.
Yeah.
And he's been trying to get out basically since the end of season 4 for sure. And he kind of goes, I'm working on it, and that kind of ends that conversation. So it also tells us that Skylar really doesn't know how deep of danger they really are, because obviously they're not going to just stop at Walter if they decide that that relationship's over between him and Gus.
Yeah, I mean they got to assume that she knows something. So if she's a loose end, and she'll be dead too. So he's not alerting her of, your life is also in danger, and our children are likely going to die too. So father of the year, husband of the year is Walter White, but we love him for it. Still at the car wash, Skylar, we see her, Shay. I want to get your take on this from an accounting point of view. She's basically putting some phony sales through. We see her talking her head, oh, extra buffering, that's better bang for your buck. And she's $45.98, putting a machine through no money, but it looks like there's sales. Obviously they're laundering money, but is this basically how it works?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to do it right, because she writes a ticket every time, and you obviously you got to track all that income and how that comes, all the revenue stream. So basically she's doing it the right way, because anytime say if the IRS were to come and say, how did you pay for where are these transactions coming from? Well, she has that little ticket that she puts in every single transaction away, which is what they would want. And funny enough about the IRS, who walks in but Ted Bedeke, and we haven't seen Ted in a while, so it's kind of a nice surprise. But Ted's more, he's not just there to see Skylar this time, as we figure out.
Yeah, she's kind of like, yeah, we have nothing to talk about Ted, thinking he's wants a rendezvous, but he says no, like I'm in deep shit here. He shows up with his books, tells her that he's up to 5 years in prison because he's been cooking his books, hundreds of thousands in fines, and he's worried about this, but it's also a problem for Skylar because her name is all over these books. She's been the one doing them. And Shay, just for knowledge with you, would she be liable for some of these charges?
Absolutely, yeah. If your name is on a lot of these books, who they, as much as he signs off, well, she has to sign off just as much, because if I do remember, she was kind of the controller, which is kind of the highest part you can be in that division.
Right.
So yes, 100% she'd be liable, and she even goes on to say, well, they can bug your phones, they can look at all your past transactions basically. And they can do a lot in the States if you're found guilty of something like tax fraud, which is what the Benekes is under right now. So it's really, it was really interesting to hear this, because after watching this in high school and then coming back, I have a little bit more knowledge in all of Skylar's dealing. So it was cool to hear.
Yeah. So he's like, no, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. And she's like, they have an 80% success rate, Ted, the IRS. Like you're screwed. And he goes, no, it's okay. I'll be fine. So, but she's very much concerned. Hank calls Walt, and Walt's kind of like, he's been asleep, and he's, what? He goes, I did some digging and found the Los Polos base of operations. And this is the chicken coop area where Gus has had meetings with Jesse. He had them with the cartel, and Walt's like, wait, what? You found it? And he goes, yeah. Like, can we do another field trip? Like, you up for it? And Walt comes up with a decent excuse. Basically says, yeah, I got a stomach flu. He caught me on the can. This is embarrassing. But he does throw in some crybaby sass to old Hank Shay to kind of get his way for the time being.
Yeah, he says, oh, Hank, I just love spending time with you. These missions, they mean so much to me. Really just lying through his teeth and, putting on a show. And he goes, oh, if you could just wait a day or 2 days, that would work for me. And, we find out after this, as soon as this happens, Walter calls Mike and basically says, you got a visitor coming, you need to clean shop. So that 1 or 2 days was basically enough time for them to, clean up their entire operations for the Los Polos Depot, because we find out there from a few past episodes, that's where they basically hide the meth. They put it into these barrels, we'll say, and that's so we know that there's product being stored there. Which, if Hank were to find that, I mean, all floodgates open for Gus.
Right. So Mike and Jesse are cleaning up the base. Mike's got a blue light, and if he sees anything on the floor, Jesse's mopping it up. And at the same time, Jesse goes, is Gus going to kill him? And Mike goes, is Gus going to kill who? And he goes, Hank. He goes, it's fishy if he kills him right away after he's been investigating him. That's not going to look good. And, Mr. White would be really pissed off if his brother-in-law was dead. He'd probably never cook again. And Mike's just like staring at him. And he says, if we did, would you care? It's an interesting question. It seems like he's genuinely asking his opinion in this case. I don't know if he was, but it did come off as sincere. But Jesse kind of gives his kind of fetal dog answer to this question.
Yeah, it basically just says, why do you care about my opinion? And then walks off. And it's true. Like, it is a sign that Mike is seeing that Jesse's more on their side now than he is on Walter and obviously the DEA's.
Mhm.
But it is a valid point to bring that up, because Mike must think that if he genuinely didn't care what Jesse thought, he probably would have just never asked him.
Right. And
He's a
we
man of
know,
few words, so
yes, yeah, he would just stand there and just walk away and not care. And also, we know that Jesse has no love lost for Hank. Hank beat the shit out of him, and he hates him. He thinks he's a scumbag, you're a douchebag, you name it, bitch. I mean, he's just any word you want to use. So Jesse and Mike go outside. Gustavo's carrying some product inside. They're loading a truck, and one of Gus's men, while he's loading the truck, we just see a sniper, his head, blood bursts in the air, kind of like Max, and we just see pandemonium erupt around the Los Polos site.
Yeah, the scene where Jesse's just kind of in a daze. He's right in front of the guy. He sees him get sniped, and then he's just kind of like standing there. And we see that the sniper's got the target right on Jesse, so he's about to die. But Mike kind of knocks him over, and they both take cover. And they have no idea where it is. It's like Jesse says, it's probably a mile away. So this guy's good. And we find out it's the same guy who is kind of the confidant of the cartel from the U.S. side, who met with Gus a couple episodes ago, basically giving them the ultimatum, yes or no. And God, this is a really, really badass scene. I think you'll agree. Gus walks out of the warehouse and basically walks towards the sniper, and the sniper keeps shooting all around Gus at his feet, and basically Gus just kind of puts his hands up in the air like, what do you want?
Yeah, he's kind of shaking just like this, like looking at him, and he stops shooting. He kind of knows, he kind of signals, okay, enough. And the next scene is Gus gets a call, and he says the answer is yes. So this signifies that the message was sent loud and clear that he's not going to be, he's agreeing to the cartel's demands, and he's now he's good with them, and he's no longer fighting them, and he's gonna give them 50% of his sales.
Yeah. And there's a car drive back where Jesse basically says, why did he do that? Why did he just kind of walk out to the gunfire? And Mike just explains, like, they need Gus as much as they don't like him. He's got more networking connections on that side of the border than probably anybody, which kind of really signifies how big his criminal empire has grown since probably they met that day where Max got shot.
Yeah, no, we've heard that when Walter stopped selling, he was selling in Nevada and all these Arizona, all these other states. It wasn't just New Mexico. So clearly there's opportunities for Don Eladio and the cartel well beyond Mexico and New Mexico. So they do need him alive for the time being anyway, until they can meet those contacts. The next day, Mike and Jesse bring the body of the deceased man into the lab. And this has happened before. They did this with Victor, where they put him in a barrel. They're going to get the acid. And, Walt kind of says, is this the thing now? Like, you just bring bodies down here. It's a meth lab, and we just dispose of bodies. And Mike's had enough. He says, Walter, shut the hell up. And he says, if you call the cops on one of my men again, you might as well get a second barrel for yourself.
Yeah, badass scene. They kind of have like a really good stare down, and then Mike walks away. But you're right. Yeah, Mike kind of fed up. He lost a guy, and that's about it.
So we see Ted at the IRS revenue meeting, so to speak, and it's not going that well. He can't really explain anything, but in walks Skylar. And Skylar looks very different. She's got gold jewelry on, a very skimpy outfit. A lot of cleavage is showing, and she's basically giving the impression, Shay, that she's like this dunce, that she's very much like a floozy and not qualified to be running the books of a large company.
Yeah, and this is a great plan. So basically, and she says this ignorance is bliss in this scenario. So her being a dud makes it seem like she messed up the books, but she didn't intentionally do it. She did it because she was an idiot, and also kind of made it seem like she got the job because Ted and her,
We're sleeping together.
they got freaky together. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
be honest. So it's great because the IRS kind of thinks, well, okay, well they didn't mean to do it. They still messed up, and they still have to pay it back. I think whatever. What was it, Juggy?
Yeah,
Like
it's close to
600,000.
700,000 and yeah.
So he's avoiding jail, but at the same time, if he doesn't pay it, we kind of find out that they're going to reopen the case, and there could be more consequences. So Skylar's really saving his ass, but more importantly, saving her own ass, because what she's doing, and it's kind of funny too, because Ted earlier in the episode kind of refers to her as just a cashier. Oh, what do they want with just a cashier from car wash? And the guy doing the interview for the IRS goes, what do you do now? And Skylar goes, oh, I'm just a cashier at a car wash. So it kind of comes full circle, and she saved his ass, but at the same time, we find out in the parking lot that Ted's, he's driving this little beater of a car. So clearly he's got no money to really pay back the taxes that he owes.
Yeah, she goes, just pay the money. He goes, I got nothing. I can't get a second mortgage. I'm completely broke. I lost the BMW. So this has saved him for the time being, but he's still screwed. Like, he can't pay what he owes, and he's still up shit creek at this point, and it still could be potentially harmful for Skylar down the road.
Yeah, because of her, if they find out that she not just runs or works for, but runs a business, then obviously they could look into that as well, because that's a clear sign that she was fraudulent at one place. Well, it's more likely she was fraudulent at another.
Right. So Mike tells Jesse, okay, you got questions about what's going on, go see Gus. And Jesse goes over to Gus's for dinner. We saw Walter do this in season 3. So, Gus did this to pull Walt close, and he's doing the same thing with Jesse here. And Jesse's just like, what am I doing here? Like, okay, yeah, let's eat some dinner or whatever. And Gus says, I'll explain things to you, but I have something to ask you first. He said, can you produce Walter's formula without him?
And Jesse's quick to the answer here. He didn't really think about this. He just kind of goes, no way, I can't cook it. And if you're gonna kill him, you're gonna have to kill me too. That was his kind of initial answer. But Gus has really got another. He says, no, like, this doesn't have to do with killing Walter. This is because I have a major problem with the cartel, and I think you can help. Right.
He goes, I need to go to Mexico. They need to learn how to cook meth. I need you to come down and do it with me. Can you do it? And we don't hear yes or no, but it's more assuring, because he's saying, I need your help. It's not, I'm eliminating a friend of yours. Can you help me in this situation? Meaning he's becoming more and more part of the team, so to speak.
Yeah. And this is exactly. Like you said, he's becoming more team. He's becoming closer. And because, they trust him more than they trust Walter now, to work with him. So it seems like, Gus is like saying, well, if I'm going to take anyone, I'm going to take you, because A, you're working for us more than Walter is. And B, I'm sure you're not going to shove a knife down my back, which is funny because he was going to poison him, but because they're sharing the same dish, obviously he couldn't do that. You see him take out the resin, but then he looks, he's like, and then we don't really see if he does it or not, which is even more interesting because Gus eats the soup and we don't really see Jesse eat the soup.
Right.
That they both share. But anyways, we find out later that he didn't do it.
Yeah. So Jesse calls Walt, says, can you please come over? I need your advice. I need you right now. So he goes over and he tells him the story, how Gus wants him to go to Mexico, and it's because of the cartel, and says the cartel is getting control of the business. He has to teach him Walt's formula, and he doesn't know how to do it. And he's just like, can you coach me through this? And through all of this, Walt just pipes in, you saw Gus? Not about anything to do with help, just you saw Gus. And Jesse goes, Well, no, like it was passed down like from the chain.
He really doubles back on his answer and basically says, "Oh, it's Mike and them." You know, he keeps referring to them, and Walter's like, "No, no, like, did you see him? And be honest." And he's like, "You didn't go to his house and see him for 2 hours and 18 minutes," which is funny that he's that specific. And Jesse just goes, "Okay, yes, I saw him, but I knew you would react like this. This is why I didn't tell you that I saw him."
Yeah, and so yeah, I knew you'd be like this, and we're eating from the same dish. It wouldn't have worked. But after explaining this, Jesse goes, "Wait, how the hell did you know I was there for 2 hours and 18 minutes?" And Walt pulls out a tracking device that he was using with
the same tracking device,
same tracking device, which is greasy, and we see that he tells him, "I had a bug on your car because I can't trust you anymore."
Yeah, and it's a big scene, and everything Jesse says about not getting the opportunities. I think he's more or less right, because every time we've seen him maybe with or near Gus, it doesn't really seem to work out.
No.
And he's not lying to Walter, but to Walter, he's Walter even says it. He says, "You basically fucked me. You basically killed me," because Walter sees as he's not trying and he's not doing anything to basically get rid of Gus.
Yeah, he goes, "You just killed me and my family." Yeah, you and he said, "You want advice? Go up there to Mexico and fuck up, like I know you will, and make your shitty chili powder meth." And in the middle of the speech, Jesse slugs him and knocks him to the ground with an old right hand.
Yeah, and they immediately go at it. It's a funny scene because these guys are not near UFC fighters, but they do have a good little scrap. They're breaking stuff. Yeah. They broke a shelf. They're at one point they're choking each other, and at the end of it, Jesse's just kind of pounding Walter to the ground, probably like 3 or 4 hooks on top of him, and finally they both kind of fall out of exhaustion more than anything.
Yeah, he hit Walt's head on the glass table and then slugs him 2 or 3 times. And as they both get up, Jesse kind of looks at him and says, "Can you walk?" And Walt says, "Yeah." He says, "Good. And get the fuck out of here and never come back." And that's how the episode wraps.
It's it's a good one, because they're in shambles now. Obviously there's no trust for Jesse. How do you trust someone who's bugged your car?
Yeah.
And basically, and well, for now, Walter just lost his only ally within this whole criminal organization that Gus has. So not looking good for him. And for Jesse, we got to find out if he ever, is he gonna forgive him, or is he just gonna let him rot, really?
Right. And
I would let him rot after all the bad things Walter's done to Jesse. Oh my God, I can't believe he puts up with him.
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, for Jesse, it makes way more. And again, this is tough because you're dealing with a drug lord, but he is in the drug business. There's more stability, I believe, with Gus and Mike. And the reason I say that, Shay, is because we know how loyal Mike is to his men. We saw how pissed he was when Victor died. He lost this man. When he finds good people that he trusts, he wants them, he keeps them forever. And if Jesse could stay clean, toe the line, prove his trustworthiness, he could be set for a very long time and make a very good living.
Yeah.
Cooking meth.
Yeah. So, and now it looks better than ever for him to do that. We'll get into more towards, I think we have 2 more pods left. Yeah. So it's really, really good. Obviously, the boys are heading to Mexico. So, it gets really interesting what happens down there. Obviously shocking. But yeah, we're going to get more into it. I don't know. It's just crazy to think that, Jesse, like you said, a long time ago, Jesse was not even supposed to be, he was supposed to be an afterthought of the show. And he's become such an unbelievably great character, and, so well-versed and been through so much. And I'll also point out that this is the second time Walter's got his ass beat, which kind of feels good to watch sometimes. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he deserves that. He's a shitty human being. And he's shitty to Jesse more than Jesse's shitty to him. That's for sure. And, Jesse's always getting the better of him in his physical confrontations. And you talk about Walter in the last episode, he said he's in full control of his life. He's just lost his last ally. He has no control, zero. And he has, like I said, he has no allies. Even his son really is flaky on him. Hank is cool, but he can't control. Hank could be dead tomorrow. If it was up to Gus, he could die, in 5 seconds. So he's gone from having maybe a minuscule of control of his life to literally zero now, because he does not have his right-hand man even behind him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that rounds up episodes 8 and 9. We got 4 episodes left to season 4. Next week, we got episode 10 is, like I said, they go to Mexico. That is a super awesome episode. I really enjoy that one. That see Don Eladio again, and there's lots of fireworks in that episode. That is fun to track with Jesse going down to Mexico with Gus. But we'll get to that next week. Shay, what do you have on the docket for the rest of your week?
NHL. I'll be watching a lot of hockey, just taking it in. I'm supposed to be in a scramble tournament this weekend. We'll see if that continues due to whatever new rules New Brunswick comes up with. But no, as of right now, not a ton. But watching my Leafs hopefully win their season opener would be nice. But yeah, and obviously cheering on the Dodgers.
Right. So no Matthews. Do you have a Marner jersey to throw on tomorrow night, or
I do. Yeah, I have both.
Okay. Yeah. No surprise there.
Yeah. No. I don't know. I was gonna. I might have to send my Morgan Riley one back because God knows if he's gonna come back after this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't get a frame for it. Are you gonna to take in the Tampa Pittsburgh game this evening?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I've ever watched. I've watched it in other sports, but I've never watched a banner raise in the NHL. So I plan on taking that in, and I think should be a half decent game. I know, obviously, no Sid, no Malkin, but you get to watch a great Tampa players play. So I mean, that's always a bonus. And no, just looking forward to it. Any predictions on scores for you?
It's always tough for opening night because it's a delay because of the banner getting raised. So I expect a slow start from both teams. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tampa lose tonight.
Wow.
Just you get the banner raised. It's a lot of emotion. You get your ring, and you're not really in the mood to play. So I think even with Pittsburgh down those 2 stars, I could see them win this evening. Tristan Jarry might be a little more sharp than Vash, even though he is number 1 goalie in the NHL. But I'm looking forward to seeing the 2 expansion teams as well in the nightcap. Seattle, Mark Giordano, just such a smart play to name him captain, even if he's only there a year. He followed Jerome McGinley in Calgary. That's not an easy thing to do as captain. He did it flawlessly, and I applaud Dave Hackstall and co on hiring on bringing in Mark Giordano as their captain.
Seattle upsetting Vegas tonight?
They have so many COVID people, like they have so many guys out. I don't think so, but Vegas won their first, I think it was like 5 or 6-1, their first game as a franchise. I was a battering. Maybe we see that from Seattle. Maybe they come out just so fired up to get it going. Grubauer plays out of his mind, and I think that'll be a close game too, but I'm just looking forward to hockey being back. You got baseball, like you said. We got, baseball, hockey, football, basketball kicks off next week. So it's a good time of year to get everything going all at the same time.
Yeah, best time of the year for you. I'm sure you're just floating up. You must not even touch the ground. You just float everywhere you go because you're that happy.
Yeah, no, it's great. You get my weekends are pretty full, and after podcasting and sports, it's juggy tie, get my 2-3 hours and get ready to attack the next day. But no, good luck in the scramble. Keep her on the fairway, and we'll talk next week.
Yes, we'll see about that, but I'll let you know how the squad does when we come up next week.
Perfect. Well, we'll hear the news on his driver next week here on the podcast. But thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll be back next week. I'll be back soon. Until then, take care, everybody.